What's up, Walking Dead friends and family? It is Brian Castro back with another review, and The Walking Dead is back, season 11. And I have to say, this episode was unlike any episode that I can remember watching in The Walking Dead's history. I really like how it started out. You see Daryl, and I spoke about this in my giveaway. So if you haven't seen that video, make sure you go back and check out that video. It's pretty cool. I got a pretty awesome giveaway, and you'll definitely want to check that out. But I'm referring to that video because there was a photo of Daryl, and he's kind of looking out into the night sky, and he's got his vest on, and it kind of just kind of a beautiful picture. It ended up really not meaning anything, but it was kind of a cool callback to last season when they were fighting the Whispers, and you see Daryl right after he had his new wing put on by Judith, and you see him coming out with the Morning Star, and he's getting ready to battle, and just that focus on that, and that's kind of what this scene, it just kind of brought me back to that scene last season, and just kind of a beautiful season, and then the way a beautiful scene, and then it kind of pans out and you see the rest of our group, and they're on top of this building, and they're looking down, and you see all these dead bodies, and it appears that they're lurkers. And they start propelling down. They already have, the ropes set up and everything so they can propel them down, and a lot of, and they all go down. You got Carol, you got Magna, you got Rosita, you got Lydia, you got Maggie, and they're all going down, and they're excuse me, but they're tiptoeing, and the music that's going through this was really well picked out. I really enjoyed it. It really kind of set the mood, and it was really kind of a tense scene because you're kind of tiptoeing through all these, these dead bodies, and you don't want them to wake up, because then they're in a world of trouble, trapped in this building. But eventually, they tiptoe, and then you see Carol, and she looks down, and she wants one of those automatic rifles, and Maggie's like, "Not now. This is not the time." And then they're trying to open this door to this other area, and Magnum kind of unlocks, and it kind of made a noise. You see one of the lurkers kind of moving his head a little bit. Nothing happens, and this was a very tense scene. Finally, they get around the corner, and there's three there, and this is kind of really cool. They're all three kind of prepared right above the lurkers' heads, and all at the same time, 1, 2, 3, and boom, killed them all at the same time. And they come into this room, and they find all these MREs. And if you're not familiar with those, being former military like I am, those are basically kind of ready to eat meals. They're not the most delicious thing, but they last forever, pretty much. And now they got some food to bring back, so they're loading up all these MREs into their bags, and then they have to come back and get back into the room to start, loading up these MREs up to the sky, where you got Daryl, you got Alden, and the rest and the other guys. Then they're hauling up, and then all of a sudden you see, and again, this was a beautifully well done scene with, like I said, the music really kind of set the scene. And then you see one of the bags, as it's going up, you start to see it fray, and then all of a sudden, the ropes go, and then just the last second, Daryl reaches down and grabs it, but his arm is all cut up, and he's bleeding, and you see it dripping, and you see in slow motion that the blood just starts dripping and falls right onto this lurker's eyeball, and he's starting to move around, and then all of a sudden he's making noise. The rest of the lurkers are making noise, and then it's like, oh shit, what are you gonna do now? So the badass ladies of The Walking Dead just started taking them out one by one with bow and arrows, with melee weapons, and you got Daryl and Alden, and they're shooting them up from the top, kind of helping them out. And this was just an incredibly badass scene. One of my favorite scenes, easily. And then finally, we're at all the MREs are almost up, and then it's time for, everyone's being, hauled up, and then it's Carol's last one left. And Carol, being Carol, she sees a box that hasn't been opened yet, and Carol is that person who wants everything. She sees one little nugget of stuff that could be useful for the group. She is on it. She is not letting go, and this is the Carol that we love. But she said. She's like, you know what? No, I'm going to get it. And she's going to get another bag, and she's filling up the MREs. And then there's a lurker coming behind her, and then Daryl, he's knocking them down one by one. He even threw an amazing kill, which he threw his big knife and threw it down right into one of the lurkers' heads. Finally, she picks it up. And it's just kind of like right at the last second. I mean, right before that, I mean, they found a couple of the guns that were working. They were taking them out, and just the scene was just so tense. It was so well done. I really enjoyed the scene. And then it's switching back and forth between two main scenes. You're going to see the Commonwealth scene and our group that's going to go off. But let's kind of set that scene up. So they're kind of talking at, I believe it's, if I'm not mistaken, this was the same building where you see Father Gabriel, and I think it was the previous season where he's like, and this is where Gamma first gets introduced, and he's like yelling, and he's just starting to get angry, and this is kind of the transformation that we see of Father Gabriel. But I believe it's in that same building that they're all sitting in, and they're kind of have a meeting and saying what's going on, and Maggie's kind of talking about, well, everyone's saying how they don't have food, and they gotta have food. Aaron's saying, we gotta build the walls, because what good is food if these walkers are gonna come through and tear it up? And then Maggie's like, well, what? And Daryl, they're like, well, what good is it if you can't eat? So, I mean, everybody had some great points in this little argument, but ultimately, and this was a scene that Aaron was like, oh, so what, you're just gonna leave and go chase ghosts? Because Maggie had alluded to this city or this group or this town that she had together called Meridian, which is where I think she was alluding to the Reapers had come in and took them out and kind of took over. And Maggie seems like she's not really given all the information that she knows. There could be some revenge aspect to this, but she knows that there's a lot of food, and at the end of the day, they need that food. So they start walking, and then it's like this really bad storm, which is kind of a cool scene. And you see the lightning, the whole 9 yards. And then, they point out, I believe it was Daryl that pointed out the subway, and they go down the subway, and then Negan, he doesn't want to be there because you can the tension is so thick, you can cut it with a knife between Negan and Maggie. And, they come across these dead bodies that are wrapped up in it looks like plastic trash bags. I don't know what it is, but they're all sitting there, and their throats are cut, and which had to be some sort of a setup because they're not making any sound. But so they end up killing all these bodies all the way till they kind of get down this tunnel, and I have to say, they're going back and forth, but I'm going to kind of go through this scene, and then I'm going to kind of go through the other scene. But the scenes are going back and forth. Beautifully done, by the way. And the pacing was actually really good in this whole episode. But, so they're getting down, and then they come to this kind of a blockade, and you got this train cart that's blocked up. They look around, looks like there's rocks that have kind of, because the train must have crashed through. And then all of a sudden there's walkers that are coming towards them, and they're trying to get in the train car, but the door, even the big dude, I'm not sure what his name is. If you know his name, let me know in the comments. But the big dude, he's trying to open up the door. He can't do it. Um, but right before that, and this kind of really upset me because Negan is trying to be on sort of a redemption arc, but I don't think he cares at the same token. And he threw out the Glenn card on Maggie, and he was because he was saying that he didn't want to go through and be treated like a dog like Glenn was, and I was like, oh, he did not just go there. So, and this is going back and forth. Maggie and Negan are kind of arguing, as is Daryl, but Negan's trying to call out Maggie, saying that she's purposely leading him into this, but now back to where that cart was. They're trying to get through, and then um, everyone's going up over the railroad car, and then all of a sudden, dog runs underneath the car, and then Daryl's like, no, I'm gonna go, and Maggie's like, no, but he does. He's like, I got this. I'll be okay. So he goes underneath the cart to chase after Dog, because who knows where Dog went. But honestly, I don't know how Dog would have got on top of that train cart anyways, but the way it was set up. And then the walkers are getting closer and closer. You can hear their growling getting louder and louder. The music is just tense. It's the phenomenal scene. And then Negan goes up to the top, and then Maggie's trying and she's slipping, but she couldn't quite get to the top, so she's fallen. And then Negan looks over the top, and he's saying, he just kind of looks down, and Maggie's yelling up, Negan, help me, and he just turns away and just kind of walks away, and then she falls. We don't know what happened to her. Man, I hope nothing happened to her, but I mean, we got other scenes where we see from all the trailers and the preview pictures that they sent us. You see, there was that one scene where Negan was pulling Maggie away, so she's got to be safe. But I don't know how she gets out of that situation. But I kind of wish that I didn't know that. I mean, Maggie is one of my all-time favorites, but I know she's going to be okay. I don't know how she gets out of that, but that was a crazy scene. And then now the Commonwealth scene. Now, like I said, it's going back and forth, but the pacing was beautifully done. They're traveling, and then they're getting into looks like some sort of gated community. It may not exactly be the Commonwealth, but they start, they have these two people who are auditors, and they're asking them 100 questions over and over again, repetitive questions, like where are you from? What's your zip code? And it's funny, like when you're listening to the different, like everybody's kind of on key, like they kind of practice, but the way they respond is funny. Like you got Princess, who's just joking and kind of laughing at him, like, what is the point of this? And then you got Yumiko, who, and she did mention she's a lawyer, so that came out. She's kind of more serious about it, and then you got Eugene, who's like, he'll give you the day, the time, and like some ridiculous information that he pulls out. And then you got Ezekiel, who's kind of a little combative. And there was one thing that kind of struck me funny, is like he said he had 3 years in college, and then sort of like, so you didn't graduate, which apparently was a strike against him but that was kind of a tense moment. And he actually kind of got into it with Mercer for a little bit. He was just kind of, so you're the leader here. And Mercer, he was like, yeah, like what? And he was saying, I know. And Ezekiel's like, I know what you are. You were probably a cop in a past life, and this is a big power trip, and that's why you're doing this. Kind of put him in his place. But then Ezekiel started having coughing fits, and Mercer kind of showed like a little bit of mercy, gave him some water, kind of helped him out, which was kind of interesting, because when you go to this other part of the Commonwealth, they're kind of sitting in this cage room or whatever, and they're eating whatever it is, and they're kind of plotting, saying they have to, they have to find a way out of there. Eugene doesn't want to because he's all about Stephanie. And then but then there's these other people there, and I don't think they're probably going to be big characters in this show, but they take him away, and one guy's visibly like kind of scared, and he's talking about being reprocessed again, which is a familiar theme that they were saying in these interviews, and they're just kind of grabbing him, and it was that moment that kind of changed Eugene's mind, that he didn't want to be there anymore because the reprocess, it looked scary, like who knows what they were going to do to him. And there was a funny scene, like Princess was talking about how, she was talking about how two of the guards, like, they wanted to have sex, and they were going off on their own. The tension was there. She was paying attention to, like, cues on the way up, like who's had to go to the bathroom a lot, and it was just like a funny moment, because she looked all giddy as she's looking over at these guards, like she was laughing, kind of in her own la la land, which is Princess. But that kind of gave them, one of the things she said is that it probably took them about, at least an hour just for the uniforms alone, because what they're wearing is kind of crazy. But that kind of helped the plan that they had, because what they ended up doing is two of them grabbed the guards. I guess they alluded, or that they did have sex or whatever, but they grabbed their uniforms and they kind of wore them and pretended to be guards, taking them to reprocessing, and that's where they come across the wall, the loss, and everybody's getting ready to leave, and then Princess is like, Yumiko, you gotta come over here, and she's like, isn't that you? And then we see, Yumiko look at it, and she's like, I can't leave. Just when they're about to leave, and then they end up staying. So who knows, what's going to happen with that? It's probably going to be Yumiko's brother. I don't know, which one you think's better, the green one or the blue one? I don't know. I think I'm kind of feeling the blue, but yeah, excellent pacing, and so you got these kind of little cliffhangers, because now they are and kind of the scenes for the next episode, they're caught and they're brought back, and then of course in the subway you got Maggie that fell into those walkers. What's going to happen there? Dog took off underneath, like a hole underneath under the train cart, and of course Alexandria. Now they're trying to rebuild that, and who knows if Walker's going to come, if the Reapers are going to come. This is a beautiful setup for whatever is going to happen in part 2 of this beginning. But I gotta say, I really like it. This episode, I'd give it at least 8 to 9 out of 10. This was a very unique episode. I love how it was done. I love the pacing. I love the music, and I love the tension that they created between Maggie and Negan. I thought that was well done. I couldn't believe they went there and tossed that Glenn comment. And they actually showed Glenn in this which was kind of cool. But that was kind of a burn, and I could see why Maggie was pissed off. But yeah, I love this episode. I hope you guys did too. I can't wait for part 2. And this is a review. So as with any of my reviews, I got to do a shout out. So who am I going to give that shout out to? It's going to go to the Squawking Dead, because if you want to check them out, I mean, make sure you're subscribed to their YouTube. They really kind of get down, and they get to the details that you may not get anywhere else. They pulverize each episode. They're funny. And I promise you will love Rachel and Dave's take on everything in the Walking Dead universe, from The Walking Dead to Fear the Walking Dead to The Walking Dead World Beyond, and eventually the Rick movies, and just kind of their funny banter back and forth, and some of the videos they do at Sharandy, and follow the Squawking Dead. It's a must follow. I highly recommend them. You'll love that channel. And thank you for watching me. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching. I love you guys. Can't wait for that part 2.